I don't wanna overthink, so I should chill, watch a movie and drink. Look around, I don't see people who think anymore.
Welcome back to Tell Me More About It with your hosts, Larry and Vernon.
How's it going?
Today, guys, we'll be talking about when to leave your parents' house.
This house is so full of people. It makes me sick. When I grow up and get married, I'm living alone. Did you hear me? I'm living alone. I'm living alone.
But before we even get into that, we got some new segments for you guys. The first one is called Advice of the Day with Vernon. So
I thought of some different things, but the advice for today is going to be know before you go. And no, I'm not talking about doing a number two. I'm talking about know information, know what you're going to do before you just go ahead and rush into it. So that's my advice of the day.
Okay. Second segment is Meme of the Day. This, guys, will be a reaction to a meme Vernon and I will send to each other. I'll send him one. We'll see his reaction. He'll send me one. We'll see my reaction. And then we'll determine who won for today. You guys can put either Team Larry or Team Vernon. And if you guys have a meme that you guys want to send us, you guys think is hilarious, send it. The email's below, and we'll check it out. So Vernon, check out your meme, bro.
Yeah. So like Larry said, I have not seen this, so this is going to be my reaction. We'll see if it's funny.
There is no cheating.
2 hours later.
You chirping.
What?
I mean, it was all right. No.
It was
I'm not going to be teasing that one.
Crickets.
No.
A slow clap. Do I get a slow clap? Or is it crickets?
All right, good job, Bert.
All right, let's see yours then.
Okay, my turn. Let's see if this one's a little better. I just sent it. We'll see. Exactly. That's hilarious. That is hilarious.
That is decent. All right. That's decent. All right. So now that we got those two segments out the way, Vernon and I will going to update you guys on what we've been up to with our lives. Vernon, you want to?
Yeah. So not too much has changed since our last podcast, but I'm still trying to get sleep, work out, make sure I'm staying healthy, especially now because it's so easy to get lackadaisical and just take off. But working out, especially every day if you can, really does help just all around mentally and whatnot. So I'd recommend that. And my car, I'm thinking about selling it and getting a new one. So it's something I've never really done. So learning how to do that right now. But yeah, hopefully I can get something a little faster if that's possible. But yeah, not much is going on. Business is going pretty well. I'm still learning about selling and whatnot. For those of you that don't know, I do online marketing. So I'm learning more about selling. Trying to switch it up a little bit. I think I'm going to try a little different of a sales approach this week coming up, but it's looking up. It's looking good. How about you?
Yeah. So for the guys who don't know this, I'm an artist who go by the name LJ Smooth. I just dropped a new song on YouTube, SoundCloud, all the other platforms. The song's called Orange Cream Queen. So check it out if you get a chance. Besides that, like you said, working out, I'm trying to get back into that. I'm not trying to work out every day though, but at least 3 times a week. And I haven't learned anything new about my music because I've been so focused with this podcast, but I'm gonna get back on it I'm currently taking a beat producing class. It's called makebeats.com. So yeah, that's about everything that I'm doing. Mm-hmm.
Sounds good. So the topic we wanted to get in today, we think a lot of, at least our subscribers and people that may view this video can relate to, and it's when you should move out of your parents' house. Now, I'm currently back at home, but I've gone out, I've lived in dorms, I've lived on my own, so I have a pretty good perspective. Larry's moved out as well, so we both have experience with this, and we're gonna just dive into it and give our 2 cents. But Larry can start it off, and I'll go after.
I gave it back to you.
All right, so when moving out, there's so many different things that you need to consider, because especially if you're 18, 19, you have to make a decision on if you want to go to college or not. So that right there is a big decision. Then dorm life, or you're going to stay off campus. There's just so many different things. But we're not even really going to get into that this podcast, because that could be a whole nother episode. So what I specifically want to talk about is just knowing when to move out and if it's the right decision for you. So in my personal experience, when I moved out, I think I was 21. So I knew nothing about moving out. I didn't know how to even go about doing it. I didn't know who to talk to, and I was just lost. So I started off by just looking it up online, and that didn't really help, because it's just all this information and you don't really know how to apply it. But what I learned is that you're paying not for the apartment per se, like all the features in it, you're paying more so for the area. And I didn't understand that until after I had signed a lease, which I don't recommend. This is my first tip on that. But yeah, definitely do a whole bunch of research. That goes back to the advice of the day, like, know before you go. Because if you don't, you're going to end up in just a bad situation. So I would say look online, look for different apartments, go view as many as you possibly can in areas that are safe. First of all, you need to make sure it's a safe area, because if it's not, that can be the cause of a lot of problems. And you also don't want to go too high with your rent, especially when you're first moving out, because there's so many expenses that you don't really think about. And what I learned is budgeting is pretty important, but we'll get into that later on. So yeah, first thing I would do is find out where your price range is, because based off of your job, let's say you're making $15 an hour. So probably get around $800, $900 every 2 weeks. You don't want to get a rent that's like $1,200 a month, because yeah, that's way too much money to be paying just for rent, because then you have water. I mean, you have utilities, like there's just so many different things.
Car note, maybe.
Yeah, car note, which I wouldn't recommend if possible. If you can buy a car out flat, I do that, but to each their own. But yeah, that's all. These factors are very important to think about. And once you figure that out, once you figure out what your price range is for your rent, then you need to find out what are all the underlying things that you may not be thinking about. So food, tissue, I mean, bug spray. I didn't think I was going to have to get bug spray. You need dishes. You need soap. I mean, you need everything. So everything that you have at home that you may just take for granted, now you got to go and buy that, and you have to budget for all of it. And you quickly realize $200 is nothing. $200 is gone like that. It's nothing. So I would say you need to know exactly everything that you have to pay for, and you need to be saving for surprise expenses. So let's say your car your car breaks down, you got to get that fixed. And depending on how long it takes, you may have to get a rental car, you may not have to, but you need to have money just set aside just in case any of that happens. So there's so many things that go into that, but I'll let Larry say a little bit because I could go on for a while about this, and I want to hear.
I just wanted to say, and you guys want to start looking for an apartment early. Vernon, since you've been out there already, would you say it's better to look for an apartment, like I don't know, in the fall or spring?
I think both of those times would be good. I'd say try not to in the winter, because moving somewhere in the winter is, at least where we are. So we're in Ohio here, so we get snow and it's real cold. It's not good touching metal in the freezing cold. It's not a good feeling.
True.
And yeah, if I had to recommend it, I definitely, not summer either, because it can get hot. I'd say the best time would be like fall or spring, maybe on a day that it's not raining or something. So I definitely recommend that. And these are all things you need to think about as well. Like, are you bringing so much stuff that you need a U-Haul? Because then that's another expense.
Exactly.
What's your like deposit that you're going to have? Do you have any pets? Like, these are all things that you have to consider that I personally didn't know about. So I underestimated how much I was going to have to spend. And it took me a while to get back to a comfort level when I was like, okay, if something happens, I can pay for it. So these are all things that you really seriously want to think about. And if I had to recommend, I would say don't get a pet your first time moving out. I know for some people it could be tempting, like, oh, I'm moving out, let me just start doing all these different things and getting pets and going out getting a brand new car because I'm on my own now. And all that may seem nice for like a week or so, but then when you start having to pay for all that stuff, and it's overwhelming. I mean, if you're a good dog owner and take your dog to the vet, there goes money right there. So now, oh no, I didn't budget for this. How am I going to eat? Like, you really got to know what you're doing because you're out on your own. And I know for me personally, I didn't really understand that because I took everything for granted. I didn't know. So, and now that I do, I have a whole different perspective. So hopefully maybe one of you can give more advice on this, or this helps you before you make that decision of when to move out, because it gets real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. You
So,
got anything to add? Or
I do. So going back to the question was when to move out with your parents. And I can only talk about myself, so that's what I'm going to do. So my freshman year and sophomore year in college, I lived in a dorm, and most of my food and where I slept at and clothes, etc., was paid by my family. I didn't have to pay utility bills because you're in a dorm, so most of that was paid by my family or by my scholarship. But when it was my third year, when I finally was living on my own in an apartment complex, first things first is don't wait last minute to do something. If you're going to do it as soon as possible, because apartments go by quick, and it's important for you to want to live in a neighborhood where you feel safe, because that's where you rest at night. That's where you are most comfortable at, because it's your home. So I would suggest that you guys find a spot as soon as possible, because places do get rented or sold fast.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
especially in good areas.
Exactly. Secondly is when you move out, and I know I may be touching on a different topic, but I feel like this all goes into one topic. When you move out, like Vernon said, know your budget when it comes to food, uh, learn about your habits. Learn what you can eat that doesn't cost you so much money. Like I remember a conversation a friend of mine had when I was in college, and we were talking about how you could literally get some lunch meat at Kroger and some bread, and that can last you a week instead of going to fast food places like Jimmy John's, Mike's Subs, and that's $10 right there. Literally, that was $10 for one day instead of $10 for 7 whole days, or even 2 weeks, depending on how much you eat. So know yourself, know your habits. Know yourself, know your habits. Uh, know how much electricity you're trying to spend. You got to be more aware because you're on your own now. You got to turn off certain things when you leave the house. You can't leave them on now because you're on your own. You got to pay those bills. You're not back at your parents' house where you're like, oh, I'll just leave it on, because you're not concerned about it. You become more aware when you live on your own.
Yeah. So to go along with what Larry said, it's so important to live in a safe area. And I'll give an example of that. So I thought I was in a pretty safe area where I was. I was paying probably around like $750 or so, which is, it's like in between for that area. So I thought it was a somewhat safe area. And I found out that there were drug deals going on just a couple apartments from mine, which was a total shock. And so all of these suspicious people, like people that, like, I'm walking just to do my laundry and they're looking at me like, do we need to worry about him or no? Like, and you could tell they were doing shady stuff. And this is where I'm living. And I know some people, this could be a whole nother podcast, but I know some people that's just what it is for them. And that's horrible to have to live like that, because you're always looking over your shoulder like, is someone going to try to do something to me? It was very eye-opening because I wasn't used to that. Growing up, I didn't really have to deal with that. And being out on my own, because I didn't know before I went out, I struggled with that. So then I got way more paranoid. Like, not only do I have to worry about all these bills and make sure I have food and can take care of my dog and all this other stuff, but now I got to look out for my safety as well. And it's just, especially for the first time moving out, it's just an added on stress that you don't need. So if you can't move to an area that you know is safe, you may really want to reconsider, like, just staying at your parents' for a little longer. And I know it's not easy. I know some people may feel like, I feel like I'm not an adult because I'm not out on my own, or
because
I need to be. What were you going to say?
Because we know that feeling of when you're 18, 17, and you're like, oh, I'm a man now. It's okay, guys, for you to stay in your house if that's not the best option. Back to you, Vernon.
Yeah. So for some people, it's not the best option. I know you want freedom and all that. I mean, I've been there, and I'm sure other people have been there that could tell you the same thing, but you really got to know what you're doing before moving out, because if you don't, it can be bad. And we want to see you all succeed in whatever you're doing. So
be safe and be happy, all that.
Yeah.
If I may add,
or what were you going to say?
If I may add, not to interrupt you, bro, I'm sorry. But, and if you guys have to leave because your parents are kicking you out, because I know certain parents do that, there are steps for ways for you to be safe. Like, for example, buy a steering wheel lock, put extra locks on your doors if that's what you have to do to protect yourself. But there are ways for you to make it harder and make it a better place for you to live if you have to live in that environment.
Yes. And if you are in a bad area now with your family, just imagine if you moved out and you didn't go to a safe area, but you were just in another bad area that you knew nothing about. So now, at least with your family, you kind of knew the area. Now you're in a whole nother area and you don't know, and you're dealing with bills, and you're just dealing with life in general. Because it all happens when you move out and you sign that lease and you're on your own. It hits you. Yeah. And it hits you hard.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very real thing. Now there's fun parts too if you do it the right way and you make sure you have enough money and budget and all that stuff. But if you don't, good luck. Good luck. Now we'll always be here to hopefully brighten your day a little bit, but
Exactly.
it's tough. It's tough out there. But you can do it. It can be done. Just think about some of these things we're saying before you decide to make that decision.
And one thing I want to add on to is we want to tap into a bigger audience. Everyone on this podcast doesn't have two parents at home. Everyone on this podcast might not. They might only have a mom or a dad, or they might have no one. So if you're one of the people that only have one parent at home, don't take for granted what you have. Listen to your mom or listen to your dad when they try to give you advice on moving out. And if you don't have any mom or dad, then Google is your best friend. Research. I can't emphasize that enough, because that's what teach you what you need to learn about living on your own. Because Google, literally, they have everything on Google now, so you'll be straight.
Yeah. And you made me think about something as well. You also need to consider, will me moving out affect my dream of what I want to do? Because that's a real thing too. Because now that you're moving out, if your dream or your passion or whatever you're doing isn't creating income for you at the time of you're moving out, that could be an issue. Because now you got to go get a job. So now that's taking time away from you focusing on your dream, the
Right.
time you had when you were with your parents. So you need to know that as well. And like Larry and I said before, we know there's all these thoughts, or you feel like you're not a true adult because you didn't move out and some of your friends did, or and all of these other things. We know that sometimes parents can be
Overbearing.
Yeah, and they could ask a lot. But all I would ask is that you think about all these things that we said and truly think about your life and how you want it to be, because moving out can affect it tremendously. But it can be a very good teacher as well.
Exactly.
So,
And again, Vernon says this all the time. I say this too. We are two regular dudes. We understand what you guys have been going through. Not everything, but we understand some things of what you guys may have gone through. And if you guys can help build each other in the comments, that would be awesome too. So, yeah.
yeah, because we want to reach and possibly not even give guidance, just give information to anybody that wants it. So someone that may not know anything about this, we hope that you can take what we're saying and maybe apply it, because I don't want you to have to go through the things that I had to learn, because it was stressful and it was a lot. I actually started grinding my teeth. I didn't grind my teeth before I left my parents, but I moved out and I was so stressed about everything. I actually started grinding on my teeth now. And now that's a problem I got to get fixed at some point in my life. So it's real out there, but you can do it, especially if you do it the right way. So now we want to talk about like some of the actual steps to take. So I think Larry went into it a little, but one of the things you want to do is, if you can and you have a good relationship with your parents, talk to them. Talk to them before you do it. Just don't schedule everything without them knowing and then just be like, I'm mad at you, and move out one day. Or maybe not even be mad, just move out one day. Talk to them, get their opinion, because they have their own place. They could possibly give you some guidance on it.
They obviously doing it. They got their own place and you've been there for a while.
Yeah, so definitely take that into account. And if maybe you don't have a parent figure in your life, maybe go to someone that you trust or that you know is doing the right thing.
Exactly.
So see, I said no, not who seems like he's doing the right thing because he has all this stuff, but maybe he's going about getting it the wrong way. I'm talking about someone that's actually doing what they're supposed to be doing and all of that. So try to find someone like that and ask them for guidance, because that's so important. And I know, especially for me, when I was 18, I didn't want to listen to anybody. I wanted to do it all myself, but knowledge, like the saying goes, knowledge is power, because it can help you avoid a lot of bad situations. So do that. And then once you do that, like we said, then you need to like research, find different areas, set up viewings to go see these different apartments. Ask some of the people that live there how it is. Is it good or is it bad? Because they'll tell you the truth. They don't care. They'll tell you the truth if it's good or bad. So get their input. Then after you get their input, then you need to budget. We'll go into that next, but you need to start budgeting for everything. Think about everything you could possibly think of that you need to pay for. And then after that, you need to look up on Google, what is everything that goes into having my own place? And what are miscellaneous things that I may not be thinking of? You need to look up all of that and get prices for all of it. And then once you get that total number, now after you know somewhat area you want to live in, now you need to look at pricing of the rent.
Mm-hmm.
So once you have that number, then you can add up all those miscellaneous expenses, all the things you have to pay for, and you have that grand total. And try to make sure you have a little money to do fun things you want to do as well. Because if you're just paying for rent and going to work and going home and you don't have Netflix, or you don't have maybe a game system, like if you don't have nothing, your life is going to, that can be stressful, because we all need a little fun here and there, especially if you had it while you were living with your parents. So get all that in order, know your total amount of money, and then make sure you have a little money just in case something were to happen that's bad that you may not have expected, and then go for it. Go for it and understand that everything's not going to be perfect. You may have forgot something that you may need to pay for, but that's what that little money on the side is for. And do it. It's a learning process. Just like with anything, you're not going to move out and then have everything figured out. It's different because you're on your own. But you can do it, and those are just some of the steps that you really might want to consider before being on your own. So did you have something on that?
I just want to add, Vernon Guys has actually did this before. So he's not just talking out of the side of his mouth. He's actually gone through this. I still am blessed enough to where I don't have to think about that kind of stuff right now. So what Vernon is saying, you guys should take heed to. But to answer your question, no, I got nothing else to say.
But yeah, and it is a blessing, especially if you're able to live in a safe area and you have clean water and food and all that. I know it sounds cliche because everyone says it, but there's people, even people that could be looking at this podcast right now, that they don't have it. And that personally, that stings a little for me, because it's just like, dang, that stinks, because I know that has to be hard. And we hopefully we can help you in some way to allow you to make it to where you don't have to look over your shoulder all the time, or you don't feel obligated to be in an environment that you don't feel safe, and you can make it out and feel safe. So yeah, we're talking to you guys too. We're just not talking to people that are in a good, stable home to where they're just sick of their parents nagging them. We're talking about also people that they legit have to worry about someone coming in their house, robbing them. Like, so yeah, we're talking to you too.
Mhm.
Please think about the things that we're saying too.
We are.
Like, don't, if you're in a bad situation and a bad environment, just don't go and move to the same thing. Just you're on your own now, because that's not going to end well. So, and now that we've talked a little bit about the steps you can actually take, we wanted to talk a little bit about
Budget.
budgeting, like go into a little more detail about that. So, and this is just on day to day. So the tool I use personally is called the Every Dollar app,
Wait.
and that's
I want you to clarify what you said. You said this is on day to day?
so this is like day to day, or it could be things that you pay monthly or
Okay, gotcha.
bi-weekly. So yeah, the app that I use is the Everyday app, and that's by Dave Ramsey. His company does that. I don't know if you guys know who Dave Ramsey is, but he's a pretty good financial guru. So that's someone that if you guys want to know more about money and understand it and understand how to be successful, I definitely would look into him. But yeah, so I use that, and the nice thing that I didn't even think about before I started budgeting was I never thought about giving. And I don't know why. I don't know why I never thought about it, especially when I was on my own, because I was just so stressed about all these things I had to pay for. It never crossed my mind to give, which I feel terrible about. But after listening to Dave Ramsey and whatnot, I realized that, like, hey, I need to start doing this. So I started giving what I could, and it really does help. Like, it helps whatever you're giving to, it's helping. Not only that, you feel happier because you know you're trying to do something. And I think that's what we all need to do is just give to others and make the world a better place. And I know that sounds like cheesy and whatnot, but it's true and it's real, especially now when there's kids that they relied on school for their food. There's organizations that help those kids get food and make sure they have food. So if you can, make sure you always give first before you budget anything for yourself. So that's something that I'm very passionate about, and that's important to me. And then you just need to go in the order of importance after that. So then it needs to be, okay, I need to make sure I eat. So let me get that going. Let me make sure I save money for myself before I pay all my bills. That's very important. Pay yourself first. So make sure you save money for yourself. Invest some of your money. There's different places to invest. Maybe we could have a podcast about that in the future. So do that. And then you want to have a little fun money. You want to do a little something. Maybe go to a movie or Top Golf. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but Larry and I, we've been trying to do that for a minute.
But this pandemic, man, is crazy. Got us in the house all day.
Said, no. But we'll be able to do that eventually. But make sure you're doing that. Make sure you're having fun. Don't get so caught up in bills and whatever you're doing that you can't do anything. Because I don't think that's the way life is meant to be lived, not to just be surviving.
Right.
Just paying bills. So do that. And then after that, if you have any money left over, just put it with your miscellaneous money. Anything that may pop up, so you don't have to dig into that savings that's like an emergency fund. That's your emergency fund. And so once you do that, you should be good budgeting. Like I said before, the Every Dollar app, I think it's $160. So it's not cheap. But if you can't do that, you can budget like just pen and paper. Because that's what I did before I even knew about it. And I know some people, they feel as though budgeting is like, they feel limited. But when you do it enough, you actually find that it's kind of like freedom. So you know how much money you have. So let's say you want to go out and get some food. You just go and do it, and you spend the money. You don't really think about it because it's like I already budgeted, so I know what amount I have for this period of time. So it's more so freeing once you get used to it. But it's very important. And we've reiterated it so much because budgeting is key to you moving out. Because there isn't this is probably a very bad fit. Luckily, I didn't experience it because I budgeted, but not paying rent on time has its repercussions. Because then whatever you don't pay for that past month, now you got to pay the rent for the next month on top of that last month that you didn't pay. And not to mention any fees that you may have gotten from not paying on time. So we want you guys to avoid all of that. Please avoid all of that because it's not good. So, yes. Did you have anything to say about budgeting at all?
Mm-hmm. So the app I use when it comes to budgeting is Microsoft Excel.
It's a good one.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's another option for you guys. I just want to say when it comes to budgeting that it's not as hard as you think once you get started. It's anybody can do it. It's not some special skill you have to you develop it over time, but it's not something that you can't do. If you just take the time out and write down what you think you have to pay for rent, utilities, food, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah.
Yeah. So if you guys have any other tools you may use that you want to share in the comments, we want to know. And I mean, we could even bring it up in maybe our next podcast because it's important out here. This is a capitalistic country. So money is it's nowhere near the most important thing, but you need it to do what you got to do. So
I also want to say this, and this can be another podcast, but I feel like I need to say it now, is hang around people who are striving to do things that either you want to do or that inspire you. So for example, if you're trying to focus on budgeting and getting your money right so you can move out, it probably wouldn't be wise, but it just probably wouldn't be wise to be hanging out with people who are splurging their money like 4/7. It probably wouldn't be wise because someone said the people you hang around, I don't know, I forgot how the saying goes, but basically the saying is the people you hang around either are going to convert you to think like them or you're going to convert them to think like you. But if there's a lot of people who think in a manner that's not budgeting, which is the topic right now, then you're probably going to end up blowing through your money. So just think about who you hang out with when it comes to what you want to do.
yeah, and these people you see blowing their money on Instagram, getting all these nice cars and these expensive homes and rents and all that, I guarantee you half of them are not budgeting. They don't understand their money, but they're doing it so that others think they are.
Mm-hmm.
And what Larry and I are talking about, you'll actually be able to build money and build wealth with it. So
Pay off in the long run.
yeah. So keep that in mind too. And we guys want to hear how you are judging and how you guys are reacting to the things we're saying. Because this is from our experience, but we want to hear your guys'. Maybe there's a scenario that we didn't mention in the podcast that you guys had. So that's what, for every topic that we do, we just want a discussion to be created around it, because when to move out of your parents' house is a very big deal that I think some people don't give it the proper
attention that it deserves.
Attention and time that it deserves. So, yeah. And we wanted to end the podcast with another new segment called Things to Think About. And I thought this was relevant, especially based off of our topic. And if I'll pull that up here. And it says, young adults are more likely to be living with their parents than on their own. And that's today, in today's time. So that's just something to think about. So before you make that decision, don't just rush out of the house. cover all your bases first, because we want you to succeed. We don't want you to fail. And we want you to achieve your dreams. And when you move out can definitely, for sure, affect that.
Right.
So,
We don't want you guys to fail if you don't have to fail.
yeah.
One thing I want you guys to think about is Kanye West 2007 graduation album. When I tell you that album, guys, is Fuego. And coming from what'd you say?
I said fuego.
Exactly. And coming from a middle class family who had a mom and dad at home in my life, it just resonates with me. And I think I could speak it resonates with Vernon too.
Yeah.
So he talks about things that you can actually relate to if you're not. It's not your typical rap. So you guys should check it out. And one other one. Oh, well, I'll save that one. I'm gonna save that one for next week. So yeah.
Stay tuned. Come back.
Yeah. Peace.
See you next time.
You can be anybody you wanna be.